Okay, I'm going to get started. This will be about 40 to 45 minutes. Completely understand if anybody needs to hop off or if you're catching the replay, welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about how to unlock the potential of your mind, bringing the subconscious to conscious awareness. I'm super excited to share more on this topic today. I personally have spent the last year or so diving more into learning about the subconscious mind. And it is a tool that I personally myself have received coaching from my mentor. Her and I have done about 8 to 10 one-on-one sessions together, which has truly changed my life. And so in January, I got certified in using the subconscious modality called theta healing. And I'm super excited to share more with you today about how we can bring the subconscious mind more into our conscious awareness, because it's something that many of us hadn't really thought about. So I want to just introduce myself, whether you're new to me or you've met me before. My name's Maria. I'm a keynote speaker, a coach, and a consultant. Prior to the last year, my main focus has been specializing in nervous system regulation and using body-based strategies to help someone calm their anxious mind. So I personally had a very busy mind growing up, struggled to know how to get out of thinking mode, which can be helpful when you're working on getting all the good grades in school. But once you get out into the real world and you're working or trying to run a business, having that busy mind that's always on can begin to get more overwhelming, frustrating, and you're like, how do I shut this thing off? So, my main focus for the longest time was learning different body-based strategies using biofeedback and EFT tapping with clients, which we're going to talk about today. My background is as an occupational therapist. I worked as an occupational therapist for about 8 years in the healthcare and mental health industries. And then more recently, other certifications that I've obtained as I started learning more about the subconscious mind was becoming a theta healing practitioner, as well as an intuitive reader. So I'm excited to share more today, specifically on the subconscious topic. I will say I still really firmly believe that every individual should also have some nervous system regulation resilience tools, especially if you're an entrepreneur or a female leader. We all know that in the day to day, things can get us stressed, overwhelmed. Life might throw us a curveball. And at the end of the day, having some nervous system regulation tools that you can readily grab from your toolbox is going to be helpful, because that's ultimately what's going to help get you out of like the I'm so stressed, this is crazy, whatever's happening to me spiral. You still want those tools. But today we're going to talk about how does the subconscious mind also play into how the world is happening around you. And it's fascinating. I want you to know that you are in the right place if you resonate with being a perfectionist, a high achiever, an ambitious female leader or entrepreneur. You have a desire to help others grow your business, expand, but sometimes you're feeling blocked. And you're not sure if that block is like, it might feel like a tinge of self-sabotage. Like, why is it that something's here and it feels like it might be me, that I'm the block? You feel like you've hit a wall in an area of your life. You have big goals that you want to achieve. And again, consciously, you're in your mind, you're like, yes, I want to do this. But again, there's like this block that remains that you're not hitting that goal. And for some of us, I will say in my years of since like starting my coaching business, and even in the couple years before I left occupational therapy in 2020 and 2021, I started working more with these high achieving, perfectionistic type female leaders, female business owners who were also experiencing chronic stress and health issues. And some of them were aware, and many of us have come to this place of high achieving and overdoing from a place of we maybe had some childhood wounds, some things that were happening when we were younger. We were internalizing some messages about ourselves that we feel like today, as an adult female, we have to really show up and prove ourselves, prove that we can do this. And some of us are kind of aware that we have something like that as well that we're working through. So if any of that resonates with you, this is going to be helpful today. what you will walk away from after you stay hanging around with me today, or if you're watching the replay, you're going to learn how our thoughts become beliefs in the subconscious mind. You're going to discover what is the difference when I say, something that we're consciously aware of versus subconscious. Like, what is the difference there? What am I talking about? How we form our subconscious beliefs in childhood. And even though the fact that many of us, we programmed these subconscious beliefs in childhood, I want you to know that we can still access the subconscious mind as an adult using the theta brainwave state. So we'll talk more about that. We'll do, I'm going to sample and show you how you can use EFT tapping and why that is a tool that I love the EFT tapping, because it is a somatic tool that can be grounding for your body. And it's also a way to access the subconscious mind. And then I'll also share just next steps. So for those of you that are interested after we go through this today and you want to learn more about working together or how you can tap into the subconscious mind, I will share about that at the end as well. Okay, so what I want you to know, and you've heard, many of you, if you're on the screen, you tend to maybe be someone who you've dived into like personal and professional development things. You've likely watched YouTube videos, been to a talk before about like your mind and your mindset and how powerful thoughts are, how powerful the thoughts that we think each day are like playing a role. What I didn't realize though, like I too had learned about thoughts and different brain science pieces back in grad school. I was aware, like, I want to be feeding my mind positive thoughts. But what I didn't realize was that thoughts can happen on this conscious level. And we'll talk again about the difference between conscious and subconscious. But thoughts can happen on the conscious level. But when a certain thought is spoken out loud to us, or we say it, or it's repeated in our head enough times, or maybe it's not even something that was repeated so many times, but it's significantly attached to strong emotions, a strong emotional experience, or a strong emotional memory, again, especially from childhood. The statement, that thought, can then become our reality and it becomes a belief. So not all thoughts are going to seep down into this belief level. And most of our beliefs were created in childhood. Now, beliefs, these repeated things or these statements that are tied to strong emotions or strong emotional experience, I want you to think of beliefs as they create the lens through which you see the world. And beliefs are held in our subconscious mind. I'll be using different visuals today because I'm a very visual person. So if we think about it, conscious mind is happening up here in our prefrontal cortex. To be honest, this is kind of where I thought the majority of my life, most of my thoughts and the busyness in my own mind and the different thought loops that I would have growing up, I was thinking a lot of that was conscious, right? Like I'm choosing what thoughts. You might think of this like when I was taking an anxiety management worry course, they were saying, if you find yourself worrying, you can change the channel. So you maybe turn off the worry channel and then you consciously turn on the positivity channel. When we're talking like that, we're talking about conscious thoughts, thoughts that I'm consciously aware of. And it's like I'm going to try to change the channel. So that's kind of where I spent most of my time when I was doing mindset work 7, 8 years ago. I was thinking, okay, I can choose my thoughts. Let me choose a different thought, right? That's like level 1, conscious. But if you notice with our mind, only 10% of what we do is really happening at a conscious awareness level. So that's surprising. So actually then 50% of what's happening in our day-to-day life, the attitude that we're holding, the behaviors that we're doing each day, those actions, a lot of that is actually coming from our subconscious mind. It's this more ingrained layer within our brain, and it's where we house a lot of our beliefs. And as I said, it's the lens through which we're seeing the world. Because when you think about it, our brain is being inundated with so much information today, especially more than even like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Many of us know that at our fingertips, we have information. So, what the brain needs to do so that it can conserve energy is it has a system, like a filtering system, which is like our subconscious mind. Because in order to start to filter all the information coming at us, because it can't actively store all of that, and we can't even actively hold all of that in our prefrontal cortex, it will get selective then on what it actually stores. And part of the bumper, the rail, the guardrails around what is going to be held then, it's going to base it off of our subconscious belief systems. It's going to, kind of keep what's similar and what's the same coming in. So a lot of what we do is happening at a subconscious level. Now, unconscious level, that is like deep primitive parts of our brain. And that's where like breathing is happening. Like my brain regulating my breath, like your breath, really basic cues are of survival are happening at the unconscious level. Again, it's happening at a much more automatic level because like we can't constantly be thinking, oh, I need to take a breath now. So that then is happening at a very level near the brainstem for basic survival, and we don't want to have to consciously think about that. So this is one way you can kind of see then how not as much as we think is actually happening at the conscious level. There is a lot that's happening at the subconscious level. This is another really great image. Again, I pulled this one from the internet. You've maybe seen this before, but it's another really great one to state how, again, consciously, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what we're seeing right in front of us. It's where like our willpower, our kind of like our motivation, but it's like that grit. Short-term memory is happening here. So if you need to like remember a phone number, or you're trying to remember like, oh, I'm trying to pay this bill. It's $88. Okay, must go into my bank app and pay that. Again, short-term memory, that's happening at this conscious level. Logical thinking, critical thinking, reasoning. So oftentimes we think that a lot of things are happening consciously because I do think when we're in school, even if you've gone to college or some type of post after school, they focus a lot on developing the critical reasoning skills and our analytical skills of that logic part of our mind. And absolutely, it's something that when we're a young adult, we want to be able to develop those skills. But then I think we think that like everything's happening there, and it's not. So really only 10% is happening there. 90% then of everything else is happening also below the surface. Our beliefs, our emotions, our habits, our values, protective reactions, what's causing us to go into fight or flight mode. Even if it doesn't make sense, a lot of this was programmed when we were younger. So, for example, consciously, let's say you are someone where you're setting a goal and you're like, I want to eat healthier. I want to eat healthy because I feel better when I do. Okay, so that's like a conscious choice and a thought that you're like, I want to eat healthier. And maybe you even consciously then you plan, and maybe you even plan out a meal plan for the week, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to do really good and I'm going to eat healthy. However, on a subconscious level, we can go into autopilot. And so, regardless of even though you consciously want to make better, healthy choices, let's say you get home from a stressful day of work and on autopilot, body's a little bit stressed. So you just go and you reach for a bag of chips. Like, chips are my weak spot. Like, that was like something that it was a subconscious choice. Not even a choice because it was kind of happening on autopilot. So on autopilot, you grab for that bag of chips. And then also you typically have a bowl of popcorn before bed while you watch a show. Again, just an example. So this is an example of how the conscious mind can say and think and want one thing, but subconsciously, because so much is really happening on that level, you're going to feel like you're self-sabotaging. There's a block because subconsciously it's just going to do things that are automatic. So a belief that might be there is that stressed equals grab for a bag of chips. And that's just like an automatic thing that happens then. So that's one way how we really want these two to be working together in certain areas that are important to us, where we're seeing our goals being blocked. Here's some other examples of beliefs that could be in the subconscious mind. The belief, I can never afford anything, or money is the root of all my stress. Another subconscious belief could be like opposites of those. I always have enough. I always have plenty. Could also be the only path to success is, through hard work and hustle. Like that's the only way I'm going to ever succeed is I must work, work, work. Now you're already maybe noticing either maybe you're resonating with some of these on the screen, or what's interesting is like you might read one of these and you're like, oh gosh, yeah, like my dad said that a lot. Or again, it's not even always what was said growing up. Sometimes it's just what you observed in the grown-ups, the caregivers, the people that you were around, maybe a coach. So it's like if you saw your parents working, working, working to the bone, and subconsciously the message was like, that's the only way you'll succeed is if you just work to the bone. So again, it's not always, maybe it wasn't explicitly said, but that's what your child mind took on. As I mentioned, I have done coaching with female leaders and entrepreneurs for the last 3 years, one-on-one, and also got to see some of this when I was working in the healthcare industry. So here's some beliefs that often can tend to be running in the background in the subconscious mind for ambitious women. And I certainly know that I had to work through some of these as well. So I have to hustle to have success, or I must take care of everyone else before my own needs are met. This one I feel like runs deep in a lot of people. I never have enough time. I just never have enough time. There's never enough time. If that subconscious belief is running in the background, you will always feel like you never have enough time because again, it's like a bumper, it's like a railing. Your mind then will always see things through that lens. Or I can never win. Like I can never get ahead. I feel like I can never win. So these are some other subconscious beliefs that maybe you have. And like I said, oftentimes until we pause and take a moment to reflect, we don't always think about how this is playing itself out. So I want you to take a moment to just reflect what maybe is residing and living in my subconscious mind. And maybe it's one of these that I shared, or it's a version of one of these. What I will say about the subconscious mind is that whatever you took on in childhood or whatever you saw at a young age, and thus you took on this belief or this statement, it can be very word specific. So like, let's say this one in my mind, it lived as I have to hustle to have success. Well, maybe you carry a version of that, but not that exact statement. Maybe yours is like, we work hard or we don't succeed. Again, like the subconscious mind particularly holds certain words, certain versions of statements that hold true to you, and maybe don't exactly hold true to me. So we're all different on that way. The other thing to say about, let's see here. Oh, well, I do want to mention the other thing to say is that the subconscious mind and the conscious mind speak two different languages. So it's why, even though we can consciously want things and we can say, but I really want to eat healthy, I really want to eat healthy, and if I just want it enough, this will work, but it won't, because your subconscious mind speaks in a totally different language, primarily through images, emotions, feelings, experiences. And also in particular, we're going to want to get our brain into a theta brainwave state in order to reprogram the subconscious mind. So just to say that the two don't even speak the same language, it's why the same techniques won't work. I want to give another example because I do think for some women, they're like, well, I don't know if I really hold that belief that you mentioned because I actually think I'm awesome. So I just wanted to share, this is one example of how your subconscious mind, again, it took in a lot of things when you were younger. It's like now it's creating this web, this filter of the lens that you see the world. But again, it doesn't always have to make sense because this formed when you were young. And so you can hold conflicting beliefs. You could be holding the belief of, I'll never be enough, or maybe it's like, I'm not enough, whatever that is, that version. And at the same time, you also maybe had someone in your life who was really feeding you a lot of positivity of like, you're awesome, you can do anything. So then you have this other belief that's good, that's like, I'm freaking amazing, or I'm capable of anything. And this can feel kind of tricky for women because it's like, I think I'm good here. But actually, it's great that you have the I'm capable or I'm freaking amazing belief. That is likely serving you and it's helping support you in your current life and reaching your goals. However, if you have this opposing belief, I'll never be enough, and they're both being held in the subconscious mind, that's where things like imposter syndrome can arise, or feeling like you've got this really deep inner critic, because even though a part of you is like, no, I've got this, I can do this, and she helps you reach, like that part of you helps you reach all your goals, but you also have this opposing conflicting belief, I'm not enough, then you're gonna like, oh, you're gonna feel that strong imposter syndrome. That's kind of how that can develop. And it's gonna feel like that opposing belief is like keeping you in check so that you don't become too confident. Ultimately, it's going to be a thorn in your side. You're going to want to address the opposing conflicting belief. So as I mentioned, these beliefs held in the subconscious mind are going to act like your bumpers, your guardrails around what you believe is possible for yourself. And so it's why sometimes some people, you maybe look at your peers and your colleagues and you're like, gosh, everything just seems easier for them. They make it seem like everything's possible for them. What I want you to know is they're not actually, they, whoever they is, they're not actually any better than you. Like you have the same potential for expansiveness and success. However, they maybe do have a different subconscious belief system creating their guardrails of what's possible for them. And so if your guardrails are constantly saying like, I always have to work hard, I'm never enough, things are always hard for me, it's like, think about that. It's like you're creating a smaller box for yourself. It's going to be hard to expand outside of that because your beliefs are kind of keeping you stuck and limited. Whereas someone else, again, if they just had different belief systems, they have a different filter, their world and their reality and the lens of which they're seeing possibilities is going to be very different. But that is not to say that you don't have that same capability. So I know for me, when I started working with the subconscious mind, I realized, and this can be hard for us, but as much as sometimes where I could get stuck in my own, woe is me, and we all have different triggers. So for me, it might be like, oh, why does this thing always keep whatever railing into me? It feels like a roadblock, and it feels like you're in this disempowered, like victim mode. Like, oh, this never works out. When you start to learn about the subconscious mind, you realize, oh, wait, this actually might be a subconscious limiting belief of mine. I wonder if I shift this, will I see my reality differently? And you do, it does. Like the change is amazing. Now, again, this can be helpful. I like to share that most of your current beliefs come from childhood. This is helpful because for whatever reason, as adult humans, as female leaders and entrepreneurs, I think sometimes it can feel, you might feel like silly. Like, why is this belief in my mind? Even though I have done all these things, how is it that I am holding a belief of like, I am not enough? Like, you're kind of like, that's ridiculous. It's not, though, when you consider that our belief systems were largely created when we were younger. And guess what? When we're young, we don't have all the logic and the reasoning to say, well, that doesn't make sense. I don't have to take that belief on, even though so and so told that to me. You guys, again, even it could even just be like things that you heard from kids in school. Like, again, if something was repeated enough that you internalized as a child, as a young person, you're going to take that on as a belief at some level. And so this is helpful just because it's not going to always make sense, especially to your adult self. But what we know now through copious amounts of research is that kids between the ages of 0 and 7 spend the majority of their time in the theta brain wave state. And I'll talk about this on the next slide, but we have 5 different brain wave states. And as kids, the brainwave state that we spend the majority of our time in is theta. And in theta, your mind is highly susceptible to filtering in all of these thoughts that you're getting from your reality at that age. So whatever you were going through, the awkward stages of just being young. And it's not to say that only 0 to 7, we can get some of this in our teens and stuff, but it's just, there's this window of time where we really spend a lot of time in theta, where we are getting certain messages, and whatever that is, we're often then internalizing that, and it's becoming our belief system and the lens through which we see reality. I already talked about this a little bit earlier. I forgot to move this slide, but again, this is just a reflection point for a moment for you to, if you want to pause the video, if you're watching the replay, or just start thinking about if you're with me now, what is a limiting belief that you maybe hold in your subconscious mind that is no longer serving you? So I say that because it's not like everything in our subconscious we need to just completely wipe the hard drive clear and start over. It's not about starting over. Oftentimes we have certain beliefs that are serving us, that are still helping us. And so it's really more about finding the stuckness in the areas of life that you're feeling stuck in and getting curious. Is there maybe a subconscious belief there that's holding me back? That's holding my reality of how I'm seeing the world? So as I mentioned, another way, I just want to get you started on how to start finding those beliefs. Another way you can think about it is there one area in your life that you've been trying to make conscious change in, but you always seem to fall back into old habits? Again, that's another clue that it's likely a subconscious belief that's contradicting what you actually want. I do see this oftentimes, again, in ambitious females, female leaders. Boundary setting can be really difficult. You want to start getting better about setting boundaries and saying no so that you can protect your time. However, if you're like me, for many years, even though I knew setting boundaries was going to be key so that I didn't burn out, setting a boundary with certain people in my life was painful. It hurt. It caused me so much stress. I'm I can't do this. I'm just gonna fold. I'm just gonna whatever, let it happen. And again, it's because there was a limiting belief there that I felt like I was actually hurting someone if I set a boundary, right? That was a belief that I had taken on that I needed to rewire. Otherwise, it would have continued to have been really difficult for me to set boundaries. And now I can do it much easier, and I can set boundaries with love because I know it's for my highest good. So just some reflection points for you to think about. So you have to realize that we have the full power. As I mentioned, it's not that oh, okay, now I know about my subconscious mind and it's really screwing me over and I'm stuck. No. It's not about being stuck and staying stuck. Awareness is key. And I want you to know you have the full power to upgrade your subconscious belief system if you feel like it is no longer serving you. You can absolutely align it to shift and be in alignment with your adult desires. But we're going to need to tap into that theta brainwave state to access the subconscious mind. So let me share. There are 5 brainwave states then that we have. And even though as kids, we spend a lot of it in this theta wave, as fully grown adults, there's the gamma waves, where we might experience insight, peak experiences. It's when our brain feels in full synchronization. You might notice it is when your brain is in flow, like you're deep diving into a project and things are just coming easily and they're flowing. That's going to be that gamma wave state. Beta wave state is where we spend the majority of our time when we're alert, we're trying to concentrate, we're just thinking, working on a task. Then there's alpha waves. This is kind of it's nearing theta. It's where we might get when we're just doing a meditation, tapping into creativity or starting to relax. And then this starting to really slow, it's 4 to 8 hertz theta wave brain state is when we're getting into a deeper meditation, or we're doing a visualization, or it's also this layer that we hit right before we go into deep sleep. So we're starting to enter dreams. And then there's delta wave, where, for those of us, if you're getting a good 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night, like at some point you are hitting the delta waves where you are in deep sleep and your brain is getting the restorative things that it needs. So the thing is, as adults, we can still access theta wave. We just need to be more conscious about it, like knowing how to get there, because it's not like we're kids where we're just easily there more often. So you want to think that if you have a deeply embedded subconscious belief in a certain area of your life that is maybe it's actively working against the behavior change that you want, then you're going to need to go and reprogram it at the subconscious level by getting into a theta brainwave state. And as I mentioned, as adults, we can still do this. Theta waves are associated when we're in these light stages of just falling asleep, dreaming, or when we get into like a deeper meditation. So I would say, like, if you're listening to a meditation, and let's say the meditation is 10 minutes long, you're listening to something on YouTube or from your phone, or you're just doing one in your mind. Initially when you're just falling into that meditation, you might be in that, I can't remember if it's like the right before it, you might be in the alpha state, but then as you start to really like relax and get into that deeper meditation state, then you're accessing the theta wave. It's this state between wakefulness and sleep, and it relates to our subconscious mind. Mindset upgrades that occur at the subconscious level literally will expand your vision and the lens of reality for what you see as possible for yourself. It is going to help you chase your wildest dreams and achieve them, which with much greater ease, because your subconscious mind is also then going to be looking for those things. I was just on Instagram before coming on here today, and it was like, what you want wants you to, or what you want to see also wants to see you. Ultimately, what it was saying is when our subconscious mind is also working towards our highest good, and we have beliefs that reflect what we really want. So again, if a belief might be like, I always have enough, I have plenty, I always live in abundance. When we see things from those lenses and we have that belief embedded in our subconscious mind, you'd be surprised, but your brain then will actively seek out evidence to find more, plenty, enough, abundance, because that's what the subconscious mind wants to do. It wants to find more of what it knows. You can see then how that is going to be ineffective, though, if somewhere in your subconscious mind you have beliefs of like, I never have enough, things are always scarce. Well, then guess what? Your subconscious mind is ultimately then going to be looking for supporting evidence for that. So again, it really impacts the lens through which you're seeing the world. So here are 3 ways you can access the subconscious mind. And these aren't like the only 3 ways, but here's some ideas that I wanted to share today. 1, if you're going to be doing affirmations, so an affirmation would be like, let's say you are trying to work on your confidence and your affirmation is, I am a confident woman. Or let's say your affirmation, you're trying to work on having a mentality of abundance. It might be, I am abundant and I always have enough. Okay, so that's the affirmation. But if you're only saying it at the conscious level, it's not going to do much. Like, unless your subconscious mind is already programmed for that, great. But if you have any limiting scarcity type beliefs or anything that's opposing the conscious affirmation, your subconscious mind will just continue to like kick it out like, nope, that's not our reality. So here's like a tip then. If you're going to try to use affirmations, and what's great about today is that you can go to YouTube and just type positive affirmations or abundance affirmations. You can get some great audios on YouTube. But if you're going to do them, I recommend listening to these affirmations for at least 21 days in a row. They say that is like how long that repetition can take to get into the subconscious mind. But then also You want to do it when you're in or near that theta brainwave state. So doing it right before bed, like as you fall asleep, maybe having some headphones on or something in your room playing the affirmations, or right when you wake up, when you're still kind of in that half asleep, half dreamy state. Again, hit play and play some of those affirmations. Those would be times where you can catch naturally your theta brainwave state. Here's another way that you could kind of start to access the subconscious mind. And this is one that we'll practice together today. And there are lots of reasons why I love EFT tapping. But for today, it's one way that we can get more into a meditative trance. And I know trance can sound a little bit scary for people, but it's not. It's just staying that we're getting into that deeper theta brainwave state, and we can access the subconscious mind there. So I do have a mini course on EFT tapping currently on sale for $29. So we're going to do a sample of that today. But if you want to learn a little bit more about EFT tapping, I don't have time to get into all the details today, but just message me if you're interested in learning more about the EFT tapping mini course. And then lastly, there might be certain things that you would want to look into working with a trained practitioner in using a subconscious modality. For me personally, I knew there were just certain areas in my life that, I had done some self things to try to access and reprogram my own subconscious mind. But I also knew growing up, my childhood, I'm adopted, which can come with a lot of difficult things that, again, as a child, we just don't make sense of. So when you're adopted, it can ultimately lead to a lot of different abandonment issues because ultimately, your birth parent, you're separated from at birth. I personally had time with foster parents and then ultimately with my adoptive parents, but a lot was happening during this primitive time where I was spending a lot of time in theta. Regardless to say, I just knew that I wanted to work with someone who could really help me work through some deep things. So that is also an option, is to find someone. And I listed here, there are a lot of different modalities that people can be trained into. And I just wanted to list, like, theta healing is the one that I'm trained in. There's more traditional hypnotherapy, RRT, RTT. They each stand for something. I can't always remember what, but anyways, I just want you to know there are different modalities and ways you can access the subconscious. I personally have tried just a couple different modalities until I knew I landed on the one that I liked the most, which was theta healing. Okay, so if you've made it this far into the replay, you might find that this part here, so if you're watching the replay, and those who registered, you'll get this replay, you might find you want to just forward to this part here. This can be a great way to just experience EFT on your own. So you're just going to follow along with what I do, and we're just going to do one round of it so that you get an idea. I also think of EFT as just it's also a somatic experience. It's also something that's just tapping into your body to help us calm down. As I mentioned, I won't go into all the details behind EFT today. If you're interested in learning more about the mini course, let me know. But today, just follow along. We're going to be doing EFT, and the phrase that we're going to use today is, I always have enough time. Because again, time often comes up when I'm working with clients, usually the opposite of this, which is I never have time. But we're going to actually try to embed into our subconscious that I always have enough time. And so you're going to take your dominant side hand. So for me, I'm right-handed, but take your dominant side. And at each point here, you're just going to tap and follow along with what I do and what I say. So you're going to repeat the phrase after me, and we're going to take a breath. Just know that we're moving along these certain acupressure points that are also helping shift and move stress through our body. So starting at the top of your head, you're going to say the phrase, I always have enough time, and take a breath. Then you're going to move between your eyebrows. And this time we're just going to say time and take a breath. Now moving to the outside corner of your dominant side eye. I always have enough, and take a breath. Underneath your eye. Time is plenty, and take a breath. then go underneath your nose. I always have enough time, and take a breath. Now you're gonna go underneath your lower lip in this little crease here. Time is plenty, and breathe. Now you're gonna go near the base of your neck. You have this bony prominence that sticks out. I always have enough time, and breathe. Excellent. There's a couple different versions of EFT. For this one, we're going to do, now you're going to lift up your dominant side hand, and with your other hand, you're going to reach towards the base of your armpit. And same thing, I always have enough time, and take a breath. And then bringing that hand back down. Again, it's you're using your non-dominant hand to tap on your dominant side here. I always have enough time, and breathe. Excellent. And then that's the last point. So I personally did a lot of EFT tapping. I was trained to use EFT back in 2018, 2019 with my holistic OT mentor. For the longest time, that was a technique. I would do different versions of what we just did on certain things that were either frustrating me or like on certain attitudes or beliefs that I wanted to start getting into my subconscious mind. And again, with certain things that you maybe don't hold a deep conflicting belief on, you can start to reprogram and find stress relief just by using EFT tapping, like what we just did. So what I want you to know is that awareness is key. When you start to bring the subconscious, like what's going on, what's that filter through which I'm seeing the world, into the conscious awareness, you're starting to notice it more. You're being more self-aware of it. That's key to start to rewire a new path. You can absolutely tap into affirmations and mindset work, being conscious of trying to do it again when you're in that theta brainwave state. So maybe right before bed or right when you wake up. You could continue to use EFT tapping as a tool. Again, that's a tool that I started with. You would do that EFT tapping, let's say on a certain statement or belief that you want to embody, and you'd want it that repetition. You'd want to repeat it over a certain amount of days, and you'd want to be taking notes. How does your body feel before and after? How does your mind feel during the tapping? How does your body feel during the tapping? Again, there is a mini course available currently on sale for $29 if you want to go deeper with that. But you can also connect with me to work deeper on the subconscious reprogramming. So I currently have 3 spots open this summer. So I'm accepting 3 new clients, and the packages can either be a 4-session package. These are virtual subconscious reprogramming sessions that you can do from the comfort of your home, and you can use those over a period of 8 weeks. Or the 90-day package, that's going to be a little more comprehensive. It includes 6 total sessions, 2 a month, happening at an every other week pace, in addition to some one-on-one tech support between sessions. So there's gonna be a little more support with that, but both are gonna be tailored to your needs, your desires, and ultimately your areas of challenge to reprogram the limiting beliefs that are not working for your highest good. Again, I've been super honored to work with just some local area female leaders, female entrepreneurs. This is one of my clients that I was working with, and she ultimately found that working with and doing some of this subconscious energy work really helped her become more aware to her external reactions, how she was reacting to things, and start to bring her awareness inward. Also helped her tap into her intuition. And just helped her live her life as the best version of herself. So I really enjoy the work that I do and the level that we can achieve when we start working with your subconscious mind. So if you're watching this, if you're on the replay, you can feel free to book a clarity call with me. I will be sending out, the replay of this and then just the link to the clarity call after. And you can also just send me an email, ask me to learn more about that. And then if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out, send me a message, hello@mariaservice.com. If you get through this and you just want to know more, you're curious, I'm happy to share more of that with you. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, where I love sharing more about how, as female leaders and female entrepreneurs, we can calm that chaotic, busy mind. And I super appreciate you taking the time to be on today. I'm going to stop share here.